For each child that's born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're keepers of faith and seekers of truth. We're keepers of peace and the builders of nations. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Hear these words for our call to community. May we recognize and abandon the familiar attitudes and practices that do not serve the whole. We are who we are, and we have the opportunity to be who we want to be, to create a new inheritance for the future. May our thoughts, words, and actions in our daily lives assist in dismantling paradigms of oppression and suffering. May we give thanks to our individual place in time and space, to our families and our relationships that touch and change us. May we give thanks to wise teachers who help us to remember how to be and the chance to make it so. Underneath and within these stories and histories is our humanity. Being human means we are of this earth. We are these waters. We are fire, the atmosphere. We are the sun and the moon and the stars. We are all that we see, and the wisdom is revealed by looking in between. For our chalice lighting, hear these words from Sean Trapp. Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It is our reminder that all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast. And our experience here is but a blip in the cosmic timeline. This flame is our promise that in our smallness and our short time on this earth, that we live intently and deeply with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought and critical thinking, and with a sense of shared responsibility. For as the late astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, this pale blue dot is the only home we've ever known. And let us join together in the spoken affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, and to help one another. Our opening thought comes from an essay titled Existentialism is a Humanism by Jean Paul Sarte. What is meant here by saying that existence precedes essence? It means, first of all, the person exists, turns up, appears on the scene, and only afterwards defines oneself. If the person, as the existentialist conceives of the person, is indefinable, it is because at first the person is nothing. Only afterward will the person be something, and the person will have made what the person will be.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. On our way, as one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free. Oh, make us free.
Our next reading comes from The Ethics of Ambiguity by Simone de Beauvoir. A freedom which is interested only in denying freedom must be denied. And it is not true that the recognition of the freedom of others limits my own freedom. To be free is not to have the power to do anything you like. It is to be able to surpass the given toward an open future. The existence of others as a freedom defines my situation and is even the condition of my own freedom. I am oppressed if I am thrown into prison, but not if I am kept from throwing my neighbor into prison. For our practices this morning, hear these words by Robert R. Walsh, titled, "It Matters." I knew a person who had printed on their stationery this proverb: "Nothing is settled, everything matters." It established a certain ambiance for readers of his letters, as if to say, what you are about to read is to be taken seriously, but is not final. I remember him and his proverb sometimes, especially when it seems impossible to change the world or myself in any significant way. Times like the beginnings of new years. Sorry, Jim, I say. It's not true that nothing is settled. In the past, your choices have been made. Losses have been suffered. There has been growth and decay. There have been commitments and betrayals. None of that can be undone. A year ago, no one knew whether during this year one person would become pregnant, another would get cancer, another would take a new job, another would have an accident. But now it is settled. One day this year, I was present just when someone needed me. Another day, I was busy doing something else when I was needed. One day, I said something to a friend that injured our relationship. Another day, I said something that enabled a person to see life in a new way. The best and the worst of those days is now written. All my tears of joy or sorrow cannot erase it. If I stay with my meditation long enough, the reply comes, "Robbie," says Jim, "you have misunderstood the proverb. It is true that you cannot escape the consequences of your actions or the chances of the world. But what is not settled is how the story turns out. What is not settled is what the meaning of your life will be. The meaning of a life is not contained within one act or one day or 1 year. As long as you are alive, the story of your life is still being told, and the meaning is still open. As long as there is life in the world, the story of the world is still being told. What is done, but nothing is settled. And if nothing is settled, then everything matters. Every choice, every act in the new year matters. Every word, every deed is making the meaning of your life and telling the story of the world. Everything matters in the year that is coming. And more importantly, everything matters today.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Our second reading comes from Existentialism is a Humanism by Jean Paul Sarte. We will freedom for freedom's sake, in and through particular circumstances. And in thus willing freedom, we discover that it depends entirely upon the freedom of others, and that the freedom of others depends on our own. Obviously, freedom as the definition of a person does not depend upon others. But as soon as there is a commitment, I am obliged to will the liberty of others at the same time as my own. I cannot make liberty my aim unless I make that of others equally my aim. The philosophy of existentialism, especially in its French forms, which are represented by the 20th century thinkers such as Jean Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and Albert Camus, is perhaps most well known for its central claim that existence precedes essence. Existence precedes essence. What is generally meant by this claim is that when we are born, when we come into existence, we do not possess a ready-made human essence that we then somehow need to live into or develop into. There is not a given, objective, or universal answer to the question of what it means to be a human being that applies to all of humanity and for all of time. There is not an objective set of values that applies to a human being as a human being. Rather, we are each our own persons. We develop our own identities. We create our own meaning, and we determine our own values. At least this is what we do if we live authentically as free persons who are not defined by entities outside of ourselves, and who live into an open future that is not dictated by fate or destiny forced upon us by outside factors. In contrast to the objects that are in the world of being, the existentialists view the person as a subject who is a kind of no thing and who is able in the no thingness or nothingness of subjectivity to disclose things about the being of our world. Persons are radically free subjects, makers of our own meaning, creators of our own values. This is both a kind of blessing and also a kind of curse. We are radically free, but our radical freedom is scary, ambiguous, and anxiety provoking. And we often are tempted to escape this freedom and to flee into the arms of the ready-made templates of meaning and value provided by society, culture, and religion. This escape from freedom can lead to a loss of autonomy as we willingly become adherents to a cause and a meaning and value system outside of ourselves, in which we lose our subjectivity and we begin to operate more like objects being controlled from without rather than living from the genuine freedom within. To live in a genuine or authentic way, as the existentialists like to call it, is to express a mature freedom that also accepts and takes responsibility for the effects of our freedom on others. Non-genuine or inauthentic forms of existence are those in which we allow ourselves to become objects rather than living as free subjects. When we allow others to define who we are and dictate to us the meaning of our life and the values that we hold, we become less than authentically free persons. As persons, the existentialists believe that we are radically free, but we often express our freedom in ways that are not responsible and do not take into consideration the effects that our actions have on other persons. We often give ourselves to causes, political movements, religions, and other external groups, and we tend to lose ourselves to these causes in such a way that we allow them to usurp our freedom. When we lose ourselves to these external causes, to these external forces, and allow them to choose our meaning and our value for us, we become prone to give up the responsibility that comes with genuine freedom. And we tend to simply do what we are told to do. This can be extremely dangerous, as history is littered with the atrocities committed by persons who have lost themselves to a cause in such a way that they justify the oppression of others and simply do what they are told to do, even if what they are told to do is evil. These are the persons who become putty in the hands of ruthless authoritarian political and religious leaders, and who often become willing to do great harm to themselves and others for the sake of the cause. This is why the existentialists remind us that true freedom comes with responsibility. As Simone de Beauvoir puts it, quote, "We will ourselves to be free while also willing others to be free," end quote. We freely create our own meaning and values while willing others to have the same opportunity. This means that we ought never to oppress others, and that we ought to actively participate in bringing about the liberation of others when they experience oppression. Authentic freedom is expressed through the liberation of persons who have been cut off from their own freedom by the oppressive actions of others. As we live in a world of crisis, as we live in a world of existential threats caused by authoritarianism, militarism, racism, poverty, and environmental destruction, all of which limit our genuine freedom and lead to the oppression of others. Existentialists call on us to live in freedom in active rebellion against the oppressive forces that keep people from being able to live in responsible freedom in our world. Actively living out responsible freedom in a world of existential threats requires actively working for the liberation of others, especially those who are the most vulnerable to the oppression of dehumanizing systems within our society. But we must do this in such a way that we do not lose ourselves to some external entity, but rather continue to will our genuine freedom in the midst of a community of equal persons who also will their own freedom. Perhaps if we heed this existentialist wisdom and live in authentic, genuine freedom for the sake of the liberation of all who are oppressed, we might be able to creatively, cooperatively, lovingly, and justly overcome the many existential threats that we are facing in our human and ecological communities. It certainly would be an improvement over the individualistic, selfish, and irresponsible notions of freedom that seem so prevalent in our society today. So let us go forth today in the radical freedom that expresses itself in radical responsibility so that all others may also be free. May it be so.
Show you that way back home. But don't you worry, 'cause I've been with you all along.
Oh, I ain't worried, 'cause I can feel it, 'cause I can feel it. Yeah, they said it's hard to really see it, and the reason why we living. Don't chase it with your eyes, can recognize it till it's given. The world in front of me became the molding of my vision. The pain that came to me is what I blame in my decisions. How can I find the courage when my heart is feeling missing? How do I find a time when I know that the clock is ticking? I'm a soldier for this love, is guaranteed to be my mission. Wish I could find it easy like I see it in the children. Hey, looking back as I move forward, Sankofa, I want a love that explodes, call it a supernova. What it takes to reach the heavens, let me stand closer. Put the pieces all together, witness Jehovah. God is patient with his son, he plant the seed and let it grow. When I love it unconditional, I learn to let it go. Open your arms, what I'm talking about. Without a doubt, I can feel the love reaching out.
Love reaches out. My love reaches out. Love reaches out. Love reaches out.
My love reaches out. And can you feel it? Yeah. I'm never giving up, I'm keeping cool, I'm in control. My praise, I give it up, a higher power's in control. This light is guiding me, I'm armed with everything I know. This love is getting closer, I can feel it in my soul. Long as I am living, I still got the time to show the patience that was given from the ones that let me grow. Forgive me for debating back and forth, to and fro. This love is reaching out, I'm giving it to you and yours. Walk with me in solidarity. My sanctuary eases my disparity. When I look into your eyes, I'm looking carefully. What do you know? There is me. No more questioning the things that I can never see. Touch, taste, smell, hear, no more mystery. Just a faith that's stronger than my pain and misery. I found it in myself and I will forever be. The breath of love that gave me the breath of life. A breath of life, spirits give it back and I energize. If I never take another, let my voice come to speak it out. And give you the feeling of love reaching out.
Love reaches out.
Yes, it does.
My love reaches
And I can feel it, I can feel it, I can feel it. Hey.
reaches out. My love reaches
Can you
out.
hear it? Can you hear it? Can you hear it now?
Reaches out.
Oh yes, it does.
My love reaches
Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Hey.
can take over your soul. Love opens doors without a key. Evolves through patience and honesty. Trust, love, and just let it be. Feel the power of love between you and me. Between you and me. Between you and me. Feel the power of love between you and me. Love reaches out. My love reaches out. Reaches out.
Yes, it does.
My love reaches out.
Feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it now?
Reaches out. My love reaches out.
Hear it? Can you hear it? Can you hear it now?
My love reaches out. Love reaches out.
Reaches out.
When it's cold outside, my love gonna reach out and warm your soul.
Our parting thought comes to us from Albert Camus, from his work, The Rebel. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. And now we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
The comedian Gracie Allen said, "Never put a period where God has put a comma." I think that when God said, "Let there be light," God was not done speaking, because now scientists have discovered that something like 2/3 of the energy in the universe is dark energy, and there's dark matter, the new mysterious forces that seem to power our very existence. Human beings have glimpsed this darkness. It's where the wild things are. It's where there's the dark night of the soul. It's where we earthlings encounter the divine. Join Red River Unitarian Universalists on December 20th as the winter solstice approaches in the Northern Hemisphere, and let's explore the beauty of darkness in the holiness of the longest nights. I'll see you there, I hope.
For each child that's born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're keepers of faith and seekers of truth. We're keepers of peace and the builders of nations. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreams. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Ooh.